Tonight, according to two sources, John Kerry is very likely to pick John Edwards as his running mate. Now, campaign officials caution that John Kerry could change his mind at the last minute, but overnight the indications were that it was leaning towards John Edwards. Katie?
All right, Andrea, we'll have much more from you and the rest of our NBC News team on John Kerry's big choice this morning in just a few minutes. Then a fitting memorial for the People's Princess will be unveiled today, or has been unveiled. A controversial new fountain in London's Hyde Park was opened this morning by Queen Elizabeth with Prince Charles, Diana's sons, and her brother Charles Spencer on hand. Excuse me, in a surprising show of unity. We'll have much more on that ahead. Plus, the battle to save the world's most powerful telescope. Firefighters are trying to save a vitally important mountaintop observatory in Arizona this morning. Will they succeed? We'll have a report. Also ahead, infidelity. It's not men cheating anymore, just men. Why are more and more women breaking their marriage vows? We'll take you inside Newsweek's cover story.
And if you haven't heard, she is the hottest thing going in tennis right now. Wimbledon champ Maria Sharapova. She'll stop by our studio live.
She is so cute.
She is cute, there's no question.
Not to mention an incredible
and
athlete.
Pretty talented.
Yeah.
We're going to get more on that, but first let's swing over to the news desk and get the headlines of the morning from Ann Curry. Ann, good morning.
Good morning, Matt and Katie. Good morning, everybody. As you can see, all eyes are on John Kerry this morning. He's expected to announce who he has chosen for his running mate. Well, NBC's Carl Quintanilla is with the Kerry campaign this morning in Pittsburgh. Carl, good morning. Busy day there.
A very busy day, and good morning. Sources say Kerry's running mate, whomever it is, still does not know he's been picked and won't know until he gets a phone call from Kerry later this morning. It's all part of what many call the best-kept political secret in years. John Kerry is said to be happy with the fact that his secret has remained intact, even if he's had to answer the same question for months.
I can't tell you because I've said I'm going to keep this process very personal and private. And I intend to do that up until the moment I make a public announcement.
An announcement literally shrouded in secrecy. Kerry's newly painted campaign airplane last night under a tarp and kept private from staffers, even aides to 4 of the presumed contenders: Dick Gephardt, John Edwards, Tom Vilsack, and Florida Senator Bob Graham, whom NBC News has learned was called this weekend and told he's still in the mix.
Increase in unemployment.
Democrats and even some Republicans say Kerry's decision is cleverly timed. Americans back from the long weekend are tuned to the news, and he still has nearly 3 weeks to build momentum before the Democratic convention.
I think John Kerry actually making a decision in the early part of July again shows an enormous amount of self-confidence.
People who work hard.
Already in on the secret, Kerry's wife, Teresa Hines, but she isn't talking either.
You'll know pretty soon. You'll know pretty soon.
As for that email going out to Kerry supporters, it is expected to be sent just before he takes the podium here in Pittsburgh. Ann?
All right, NBC's Carl Quintanilla this morning with a close watch on that story. Meantime, in Iraq, new violence against Americans, but new hope for one American hostage. NBC's Tom Aspel is in Baghdad this morning with more on
much. On Close-Up this morning, who will John Kerry pick as his running mate? We've got comprehensive team coverage this morning, including Tim Russert on the political ramifications of Senator Kerry's choice. NBC's Chip Reed is following North Carolina Senator John Edwards. Andrea Mitchell is covering Missouri Congressman Richard Gephardt. Ron Allen is with Iowa Governor Tom Vilsack, who's vacationing in New Jersey. Chip, why don't we start with you? Good morning.
Well, good morning, Matt. John Edwards is here at his home in D.C. today. He has a pretty ordinary day planned, going up to Capitol Hill, where he has some votes in the U.S. Senate. But just one phone call could change that day dramatically.
If you believe the Las Vegas odds makers, North Carolina Senator John Edwards is leading all vice presidential contenders, an 8-5 favorite.
We need John Kerry in the White House.
The son of a mill worker, first in his family to attend college, Edwards made millions as a trial lawyer. He entered politics just 6 years ago, surprise winner of a seat in the U.S. Senate. This year, in the race for the Democratic presidential nomination, he was the last man standing against John Kerry, and the two reportedly didn't have the warmest relationship.
In this age of Oprah and Dr. Phil, it matters whether or not there is a good chemistry between the presidential and vice presidential candidate.
On the pro side for Edwards, charisma, energy, a campaign trail favorite. Con, a political newcomer who may not be able to deliver his own state.
Now, no one has worked harder to get the job of running mate than John Edwards, and the likelihood is that no one will be more disappointed if he doesn't get it. Katie?
All right, Chip Reed. Chip, thanks so much. Now let's turn to NBC's Andrea Mitchell with more on another leading contender, Congressman Dick Gephardt. Andrea, good morning again.
Good morning again to you, Katie. The betting on Dick Gephardt is that John Kerry would want someone experienced, steady, and ready at a moment's notice to be president. Las Vegas now has the odds of him being picked as 9-5. A presidential hopeful himself, Gephardt first tried in 1988 and again this year. But despite strong labor backing, he came in fourth in Iowa, signaling what looked like the end of his political career.
I love this country, and I love my family. The silver lining in all of this is that I'll finally get to see them.
Gephardt is a traditional Democrat who supported the president on the war in Iraq. His biggest pro for Kerry? Experience, 28 years in Congress representing the swing state of Missouri. Plus, he gets along well with Kerry. The downside, no sizzle.
Dick Gephardt would be the safest choice, the most boring choice, but perhaps the person who would be viewed by swing voters as the most prepared to be president.
Picking Gephardt would signal that Kerry doesn't feel he needs John Edwards' pizzazz to ignite his campaign and is more interested in the comfort factor, having a reliable veteran who would not overshadow him on the campaign trail. Matt?
All right, Andrea, thanks very much. NBC's Andrea Mitchell. NBC's Ron Allen is in Ocean City, New Jersey, where Iowa Governor Tom Vilsack is vacationing. Ron, good morning to you.
Good morning, Matt. Governor Vilsack is here vacationing, we're told, after spending July 4th campaigning with John Kerry. It's just a short flight from here to Pittsburgh, and that also happens to be the town where Vilsack grew up. In the VP race, the odds, though, are not in his favor.
The latest Vegas odds are 10-1 the Iowa governor will become Kerry's running mate. He's the least known of the contenders, a man with a moving personal story, an orphan who overcame a troubled childhood to become governor of a state the Democrats want to win.
Governors do well in presidential politics, and after 20 years in the Senate, John Kerry might benefit from having somebody outside Washington on his ticket.
That's his biggest pro. He moves the ticket to the heartland and could help Kerry contest several key battleground states. His biggest con? He's relatively inexperienced, untested on the national stage. That, some analysts say, perhaps makes him too much of a wild card for the number 2 slot.
Vilsack is often described as a details guy, a policy wonk, and for that reason, there's a lot of speculation that he could get a cabinet post, for example, behind the scenes if Kerry wins. Katie?
All right, Ron Allen. Ron, thanks so much. Tim Russert is NBC's Washington Bureau Chief and moderator of Meet the Press. Hi, Tim. Good morning.
Good morning, Katie.
Well, NBC's Andrea Mitchell reporting that the Kerry campaign is leaning very strongly toward John Edwards, but reportedly calls to the runners-up have not gone out yet to let them know that they have not been selected. Having said that, before we talk about John Edwards and the pros and cons in your estimation, let's talk about the decision process for a moment, what the Kerry campaign has been going through in terms of searching for what they might deem the perfect VP candidate.
Katie, there's been a very detailed vetting process, it's called, checking a candidate's background, personal interviews with Senator Kerry. Also, polling has been done. How would these men complement Senator Kerry politically in trial runs against the Bush-Cheney ticket?
All right, so what does John Edwards bring to the table or to the ticket, Tim?
Well, Katie, it's quite interesting in terms of the evolution in John Kerry's thinking. In an unguarded moment during the campaign, John Kerry was asked if he didn't win, who he supported. He said Dick Gephardt. Also during the campaign, John Kerry said that he didn't think that John Edwards could withstand an advertising campaign focusing on his lack of international experience or military experience. But all that being said, there are indications that John Kerry realizes that his campaign does need an infusion of energy. And the one thing that John Edwards has demonstrated on the campaign stump, both in the primaries and post-primary, is his ability to rally people at political events and perhaps even reach over and motivate some of those undecided voters into the Democratic column.
So charisma and ability to be a good campaigner is the pro, and lack of experience the con?
Absolutely. And also, Katie, it's quite interesting. You know, people will say, well, John Kerry's more comfortable with Dick Gephardt, and he feels that Dick Gephardt could become president at a moment's notice, and then he would be someone he'd feel could be by his side in governing. And all that is true. But in the end, you have to win first. And we all remember the stories of 1960, John Kennedy saying to Robert Kennedy, I'm going to take Lyndon Johnson, and Bobby Kennedy saying, but you don't like him. And John Kennedy said, I know, but I want to win. It is important that a candidate be confident enough in his own leadership as a presidential candidate that he may take someone he doesn't feel quite as comfortable with as another person for vice president, because he realizes it may in fact provide the ingredient which propels them to victory.
Real quickly, what about this Tom Vilsack? Is he unlikely? Is he just too much of an unknown?
I think that's the biggest challenge for Governor Vilsack, Katie. He has, as Ron Allen reported, an interesting personal story, being an orphan from the Midwest state of Iowa. But he's never run for national office, and it's a very treacherous track out there as you go around it for the first time.
A lot of people, I guess some Democrats, Tim, sorry for interrupting, have these fantasy ideas about Senator Hillary Clinton or John McCain. Those don't seem possible at this juncture, do they?
No, John McCain has taken himself out so many times, and now, in fact, is going to be shown in a commercial for President Bush. But your Hillary Clinton issue is an important one, Katie, because if, in fact, John Kerry selects John Edwards, he really does propel John Edwards into the stratosphere of Democratic future candidates. If Kerry doesn't win in 2004, what would this mean for Edwards in 2008? And if, in fact, Edwards has been launched, what does it mean for Hillary Clinton?
And we only have
so the power game.
The power
game will go on.
And we only have a few seconds left, but I know that President Bush is heading to Raleigh, North Carolina. Does he know something that we aren't sure of?
You know, during the primary season, he would always show up in the Democratic primary state the day after the primary was held. So it looks like Karl Rove and George Bush may have made their own calculation.
All right, Tim Russert in Washington. Tim, as always, thanks so much. It is 7:16. Once again, here's Matt.
All right, Katie, thank you. Now to the fate of
And they apparently are now hit the campaign trail today, Katie.
Just a few